What it do? Welcome to another new episode of Locked On Bucks. You probably heard of girl math and boy math, but here's some Bucks math for you. No Giannis plus no Dame plus Bobby Portis getting ejected in the first quarter equals the Bucks staring up at a 3-1 deficit after losing 113-126 to the Pacers in game 4. Let's talk a little bit about that now, shall we?
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Bucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Camille Davis. You can catch me weekly on the Technical Foul Podcast as well as the Pack a Day Pod. I appreciate you for tuning in and thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast as well as on YouTube. And today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I got to admit, I got a competitive side. And I'm a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on the classic Monopoly game. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now for free on the App Store or Google Play. The Milwaukee Bucks came into this game in a difficult situation, okay? There was no Giannis. They haven't had Giannis the entire series so far. There was no Damian Lillard after the Achilles injury in game 3. Which, of course, then meant that life became even more difficult once Bobby Portis got ejected. 5 minutes left in the first quarter. Let me be technical here. 5:01 left in the first quarter when Bobby Portis was ejected. I mean, on top of that, Pat Bev took a hard fall early and he was limited. Although available, kind of, sort of, like he played a series low 21 minutes tonight. So he was out there playing through injury. Chris Middleton already came into the game with the bad right ankle, twisted his other ankle. He was out here on no ankles tonight. Like there aren't any moral victories in the playoffs, but I just got to start this show off by just saying bravo to the effort that this team showed because wow, like the margin of error was so thin with this team with the injuries they had facing coming into the game and then losing Bobby Portis and then having the injuries to two other key players. That's hard to get through. And at halftime, the Bucks were only down by 3 points at halftime with all of that going on. And the Pacers were 12 of 22 from 3 at that point. The Bucks had shot 5 of 16 and they were only down 3 at halftime. I just said, hey, at halftime, I was like, listen, if the Bucks can do a better job of closing out on shooters and keep the ball moving on offense while limiting turnovers, they're going to be all right. Well, the Pacers went on to hit 10 more threes in the second half, which broke their franchise record of three-pointers made in the playoff game with 22. The Pacers shot 51.2% from 3. And it's not as if a lot of those three-point shots were super contested. I don't think the Bucks did a great job tonight on their rotations. A lot of times these were open threes that guys were seeing tonight. A lot of open threes the Pacers saw, and they did not hesitate to shoot them. They got 43 threes up today. The Bucks, in comparison, shot 33 threes. And pre-game, I noted like, hey, I hope the Bucks can have a high variance three-point shooting game in their favor. Clearly, that was not the case, right? The Bucks finished the game 12 of 33 from 3, 36.4%, which isn't terrible. It's just that it's not 51% on a higher volume like what the Pacers did today. Like I mentioned, the Bucks were too slow on rotations, but they gutted through it. They had a tough third quarter, and then they opened the fourth quarter with 7 straight points to close that Indiana lead back down to 6 points. It's just that Indiana then answered with a 10-2 run of their own to rebuild a 108-94 cushion with about 7.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and the Bucks couldn't get it within single digits for the rest of the game at that point. A tough game. Post-game, Doc Rivers made note just saying like he appreciated how the team was playing. He said, quote, "Our guys were playing their hearts out. They really were. I love that our team, no matter what anyone thought, they believed we could win this game, and it shows a lot about this basketball team." And what I loved about it most was that they were disappointed they didn't win the game. This is a great group to coach. I'm telling you, I know we have a lot of stuff going on, just clutter, injuries, but man, I'm loving this team every second that I'm with them. And today's another example of that. And I got to agree, after the regular season that we've had with so much up and down, just seeing the effort and seeing that this team didn't have any quit in them, like that, I was proud of this team's effort tonight. Disappointed in the result for sure. Really disappointed after how game 3 ended, when that felt like that was the one you were going to steal. But I just wanted to start the show with that. Proud of this team's effort. But again, there are no moral victories in the playoffs. And we got to start after that start, I should say, when talking about the game a little bit more in depth. You got to start with Bobby Portis. That's a big turning piece in this game. As I mentioned, Bobby Portis was ejected with 5:01 left in the first quarter, got into a scuffle, lost his cool, and it completely altered the flow and rotation of the game. It was a moment of frustration from Bobby Portis that just can't happen. And we've talked about it a lot throughout the season. Doc Rivers has mentioned it, like Bobby's one of our instigators. And it's not a bad thing to have instigators on your team. You want to have a team with some guys that have an edge to them, right? That's part of why the Bucks fans love the championship team with PJ Tucker. You love that edge, that roughness, that grit. But there's a thin line when it comes to it. You can't let your frustration boil over to the point where it affects your team. And coming into this playoff series, Chris and Dame both had comments about it. Like Chris mentioned before the series started, when you get to the playoffs, the stakes are higher. So the emotions, they're going to be higher. There's more on the line. The season is on the line at this point, but we have to find a way to keep our emotions in check. And, focus on the game and not let our emotions take us away from the game. Dame also said, we got to be responsible when it comes to that. Emotions, of course. We can't be overly emotional about it, because in the playoffs, that can change a series. I know you get too emotional, you can be taken advantage of. So I think it's important for us to not come out emotional about it. We got to keep our composure and act like the vet team that we are. We got to be the mature team. We got to have that intensity and that urgency. But we can't be too emotional where we get taken advantage of. And honestly, Bobby fell for the bait tonight. He fell for the bait tonight. It's a game coming in there where the Pacers know, hey, the Bucks are down Giannis. The Bucks are down Dame. Chris isn't fully healthy. Like, if we can rattle Bobby a little bit, we can probably get him out of here. Like, that whole scuffle, it was a swing point in the game. Like, Andrew Nembhard knew what he was doing, got involved with the shoving magic. Bobby got tossed out of there. And this comes right after, like, the crowd's out here cheering, chanting, Bobby sucks. Bobby sucks. Like, the emotions were high, and I feel that for sure. But Bobby is too important to this team. When they're fully healthy, he's important to this team. But without Giannis, without Dame, he is extremely important to this team. And with him gone, that's 35 minutes gone so far in this playoff series. BP has averaged 35 minutes a game. That's 35 minutes gone. That's 15 points gone. 15 at least. That's what he's been averaging, right? 13 boards he's been averaging. That's gone. And this is a team that's already struggled when it comes to that rebounding department. So that was a huge blow for this team early. I mean, out of that, we got Danilo Gallinari minutes, 13 minutes from him. We got 13 minutes from Jay. And Jay only played 2 games in game 3, 2 minutes in game 3. And now he's here playing 13 minutes in game 4. Again, Gallinari had some minutes. He had 6 points, had a couple of nice little post moves. One where he kind of fumbled through it, but he got the bucket. I mean, he was in minus 11 tonight. Most of the Bucks tonight were in the negatives when you look at the plus minuses, except for Andre Jackson Jr. So on the other side of this break, want to dig a little bit deeper into some of the performances we saw from some other Bucks that tried to make up for the absences of Giannis, of Dame, and then of Bobby. So we'll get into that right after this. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Class exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right in to that 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect mid-size crossover for your next adventure. Nissan's incredible lineup also includes the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder, which has room for up to 8 people, an expansive cargo capacity, and advanced available 4x4 capabilities. With 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing, when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. So take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop nissanusa.com. I've mentioned it before. And if you listen to Locked On Bucks regularly, you probably you know me a little bit by now. I'm pretty mellow, pretty low key, pretty chill, but I'm really competitive. I got a big competitive side. I mean, most of us do. And my competitive side is a huge fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. I mean, it's been all over my Facebook timeline for a while now, and it's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that can bring you big money, big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can't lie about that. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like the classic Monopoly game. But now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself. That'll show you not to invite me to lunch. The leaderboards also show me who is the biggest Monopoly tycoon. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people from all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game. Join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. Time is valuable. Truly, truly is, because when you spend it, you can't get it back. So I appreciate the fact that you are spending it with me here on Locked On Bucks. A special shout out to all the everydayers who tune in Monday through Friday. You be watching Sports Fox or ESPN on your TV all day and maybe have to turn the volume down with all the shouting that's going on. Make sure you make that switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every single day of the week to bring you the biggest stories without all of that screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news. It's streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Now, we got to talk about some other guys, like I mentioned. Chris Middleton wasn't perfect in this game by any means, but golly, was this a gutsy game from Chris Middleton. 25 points on 22 shots. He had 4 turnovers. 3 of them I can recall that were pretty bad passes. I was like, what you doing, Chris? We got to take care of the ball. But he was also the Bucks' leading rebounder with 10 points. He was actually the only Milwaukee Buck to have double-digit rebounds in this particular game. And when he twisted his ankle in the third quarter, I thought that was about to be over for Chris in this series. I was like, this man just can't catch a break. Like, he had the bad ankle already. Now he's twisting the other one. You're seeing him hobbling into the back. I'm texting my friends in the group chat just like, it's donezo, y'all. Like, I can't believe my boy, 22, just a terrible injury luck. And the next thing you know, you see him turn right back on around, come back on the court like, I'm playing through this. I got it. Appreciate the effort. Appreciate the effort. Again, the everydayers know I'm a big Chris Middleton fan. I love what Chris Middleton does. And I mean, he is somebody who even last season in the terrible the 4-1 loss to Miami Heat, he was somebody who showed up. And he's also showing up in the playoffs this year as well. Of course, the playoffs is a small sample size, but the playoffs are nothing but small sample sizes. And in this postseason, Chris Middleton is averaging a career playoff high points per game, 26.3, and rebounds per game with 8.8. He hasn't shot this well from the field in the playoffs since the 2017-2018 season when they took on the Kyrie-less Boston Celtics and they went to 7 games. In that series, Chris Middleton was shooting a crazy 59.8% on 16 attempts. So far in this series against the Pacers, he's been shooting 50.6% on 19.8 shots a game, where he is seeing a lot of defensive attention from the Pacers and still making something shake out of it. So a big salute to Chris Middleton, playing through the injury, just trying to keep the ship on the right course here. I mean, in the third quarter, Chris came back from the injury, like I mentioned, and he played for a little bit more. And when he checked out, the score was 76-81. The Pacers very quickly rattled off a 7-0 run, which pushed the Pacers lead up to 12. And ultimately, like, that third quarter really did the Bucks in. Even in the first quarter, like, the points, they were even in the first quarter. Second quarter, they lost it by 3 points. They lost the third quarter by 10 points, and then the Bucks and the Pacers were even in the fourth. Like, that third quarter swing, it just made that deficit a little bit too much for the Bucks to come back from. And Brook Lopez, another guy to talk about here, right? He led the Bucks in scoring, 27 points, and he was pretty efficient from the field tonight. Brook Lopez was 12 of 18, 3 of 5 from the three-point line. He got a lot of money in the paint tonight. Although sometimes I felt he dribbled a little bit too much, a little too much dribbling going on, but he did his job. He did his job offensively. He helped continue to keep the Bucks within reach of the Pacers. Defensively, there were some times where, as I mentioned before, where rotations were just a little slow getting out to the shooters. I felt like in the second half off my first watch, it seemed as if with those rotations, the Bucks were purposely then trying to keep Brook back and let the other four guys rush out to whatever that mismatch was, letting Brook take the guy in the paint there. But it was just difficult for the Bucks. We had a lot of Malik Beasley in this game, 34 minutes. And I know the defense wasn't like the questions has been that way all season when it comes to Malik Beasley. I mean, he had the worst plus minus on the team tonight, minus 19. Again, you take plus minus with a grain of salt, but that does match the eye test, which is unfortunate, right? Because offensively, Malik Beasley did what he was supposed to do, right? And his offense was needed in the worst way. Again, no Giannis, no Dame. Bobby's gone. Like, you need some buckets. You need a guy who's not going to be afraid to shoot in tight windows, a guy who's not going to be afraid to shoot, period. And Bees wasn't afraid to shoot in this game. And it was nice for him to have some of those shots drop. Because it's been some rough goings for Malik Beasley this season. The shooting has been up and down, and it's been on that downward trajectory over the last few games and the last few weeks, honestly, for Bees. So seeing him go 4 of 7 from the three-point line, 8 of 12 from the field. It was a positive to see that from Bees, to see that he was making the most of his shot attempts in this game, because again, the Bucks needed every single one of those points. So with Bees here, mentioning him and the game that he had offensive with 20, the other leading scorers of the team, as I mentioned, Brook Lopez had 27, Chris Middleton had 25. There were no other Bucks players with double-digit scoring in this game. Just Brook, Chris, and Bees. That was it. You got 9 from Pat Bev, who, again, just half out there. 21 minutes in the game, the lowest of the series so far. But he knocked down his 1 3-point attempt. He only had 6 shot attempts. Got that bad tech early for the too small celebration. Like, refs, what we on? What we on, refs? Y'all gave Siakam that really bad tech right before that when he's just staring, and then Pat gets hit with a tech for the too small celebration that he does all the time. That was weak. It's the playoffs. Let guys play. But I'm getting off topic here. That just really had bothered me. But after that, you have AJ Green, who had 8 points, and you got Andre Jackson Jr., who had 6. I mentioned Danilo Gallinari had 6 points as well. But talking about these two young Bucks, right? The two guys whose names have come up a lot this season as somebody who fans are interested in seeing more from, seeing more of. And you can see why, especially with Andre Jackson Jr. Like, Ajax led the team in assists with 7. He had good energy, good ball movement, aggressive defense, which did get him in trouble sometimes. I realize in this game in particular, like, Andre Jackson Jr. got that edge to him. He got a little dog in him. He looks like somebody who might walk into that instigator role next year as well, that we've mentioned that, you see Bobby known as, that Pat Bev is known as. Ajax got a little bit of that dog in him too. He plays with the edge, which I enjoy. It's just that he's going to have to, of course, with more playing time, with the summer development, with more coaching, learn how to hone that focus in a little bit more. But when he's on the court, just the high effort, second chances, like going for the rebounds, just trying to find ways to make himself useful. Like, Andre Jackson Jr. had 6 rebounds tonight, and 3 of them were offensive. him and Brooke, well, I shouldn't say him and Brooke are alone because both of them had 3 offensive rebounds while Chris had 1. But again, that's what Andre Jackson Jr. brings to the game, which is why, it's like I want to see more of that. We saw him playing that nominal 4 position in this game with the foul trouble to Bobby Portis. I shouldn't say foul trouble, the ejection to Bobby Portis in this game. And AJ Green, we saw his first 3 of the series drop, but he only went 2 from 6 from 3 tonight, 33%. We know he's a much better 3-point shooter than that. But yet and still, again, AJ Green, somebody who you want to see more of. The shooting hasn't been there for him in this series so far, which is a bummer because that's one of the things that, you expect from AJ Green. You want to see that scoring take place here, but wasn't the case for him in a high efficiency number tonight. He took 7 shots. He made 3. 2 of those were 3-pointers. But the young Bucks got some pretty big minutes. AJ Green had 21 minutes tonight. Andre Jackson Jr. had 25 minutes tonight. So even in this loss, again, you hope to see them in the rotation a bit more. The 2 of them had, well, not AJ Green because Pat Connaughton played 22 minutes, but off the bench, Andre Jackson Jr. was the leading guy when it comes to minutes. Like it was on Andre to lead the minute charge from the bench. So hopefully that's a sign of more we can see coming with these young guys earning more time, more rotation. Again, AJ Green hasn't shot it well, but defensively, he's a little bit stronger than some might have thought. He's a little bit stronger than Bees is defensively. So I would like to see that out there on the court as much as possible, if I possibly can. But it's tough, man. It's a tough loss. Again, really tough after game 3, and you were this close to walking out with that win, but it's how the cards have laid for the Bucks. They are now looking at a 3-1 deficit. So when we come back on the other side of the break, I want to talk a bit more about what we do currently know about the health of Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard going forward, because if they can return in this series, that's going to be a big help for the Bucks. So let's talk about that right after this. It is never too late to show your mom love this Mother's Day with DoorDash. Surprise mom with flowers, with gadgets, self-care essentials, all in one place delivered right to her door. Does mom have a sweet tooth? Is she a tech enthusiast? Beauty connoisseur? Is she outdoorsy? No matter what your mom is into, you can make her smile with the fruit or flower bouquet, makeup, tech gear, workout gear, whatever it is that she's into. Get thoughtful gifts that she deserves with the convenience that you need. Choose same-day delivery or schedule a week ahead for when flowers and gifts should arrive to her door with DoorDash. Shop with savings that would make her proud. With a DoorDash Dash Pass membership, you'll save with a $0 delivery fee and reduce service fees on eligible orders from Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimum subtotal. Other fees, like service fee, may apply. Terms apply as well. Order now and get everything you need for Mother's Day on DoorDash. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend at least $15 on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order right now on DoorDash. That's Locked On NBA. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. Post-game, Doc Rivers joked about how he didn't want to talk to the medical team for like 5 minutes. I haven't talked to him. I don't want to talk to him because I want to avoid any more possible bad news, because I just kind of want to enjoy this right now and let that be. But jokes aside, I mean, the Bucks really are the walking wounded. Giannis, I've said it multiple times now. Giannis didn't play. Dame didn't play. Chris injured during the game, banged up. Pat Bev banged up during the game. But pre-game, right? Before we see Chris roll his other ankle, before we see Pat Bev injure his ribs, back area, Doc Rivers told reporters that Dame is not shut down for the rest of this series. And he also mentioned that he had some optimism that Giannis will play in this series. So to rewind that a little bit further, on Saturday, Doc Rivers said that Giannis was going to go through a hard workout on Sunday morning. And then he said, I doubt that he plays, but he's going to go through it and we'll see. When asked about how that workout went pregame, Doc said that it went well. He moved, he shot. He's running now with no resistance. So those are all very good signs. Doc was then asked, does that workout going well for Giannis mean that you're optimistic he can play in this series? And Doc Rivers responded, optimistic more. I think there's a chance for him to play in this series. I really do. And that's a different tone than what we've heard from Doc before, right? He was saying before, like, hey, I doubt it. Like, I don't know if this is going to happen. He is not running. He's not doing this. But to hear now that he's running with no resistance, that is a really good sign. So it's possible that Giannis can return in this series. Now, game 5 in play for Giannis at this point? Possibly. I'm not sure how likely that is. But again, the information that I just shared with you is information that I'm working off myself. It sounds like game 5 is in play, but it's not a guarantee at this point. As for Dame, like I mentioned, he said that Dame is not being shut down for this series. I personally was watching the Valley, Wisconsin broadcast because shout out to the home team. Shout out to Marcus Johnson, Lisa Bonington, Melanie Rakes, and the whole crew over there. But I heard on the TNT broadcast that it was mentioned that apparently Damian Lillard can't further injure himself there, and it's going to be a pain tolerance type of situation. Now, when I hear that information, that doesn't quite compute to me because, like, how can an Achilles injury not be at any risk of getting worse? But again, I was watching the Bally broadcast. This is what I heard was relayed on the TNT broadcast. But what we heard from Doc Rivers was that, it's not out of the possibility that Dame returns. He is not shut down for this series. But I mean, you saw Dame walking in to the arena for this game just with a slow bop, a little slow limp. Wasn't looking like he was going to be able to run, tonight or anything like that. So I'm not sure how close Dame is. It feels to me like expecting him back for game 5 would be a little too optimistic in my opinion. But of course, we'll get more information about that tomorrow. So we'll know more heading into Tuesday, game 5 matchup between the two teams here in Milwaukee. And the Bucks are going to walk into that game 5 matchup staring up at a 3-1 deficit. And when you are down 3-1 in the series, you're not out. I mean, we saw LeBron and them do that with Cleveland, in the finals. But where do you go from here when you're facing a 3-1 deficit, when you are on the brink of elimination, when you're in the same situation that you found yourself in last year? Hey, 3-1, what do you do? And honestly, the answer is you take it a game at a time. You ain't going to be able to win 3 games in one shot. So you take it a game at a time. You break it down into small, manageable mental chunks that you can kind of think through saying, hey, we just got to go and get the next one. Get game 5. The Bucks have 2 games at home, 1 game on the road. You got to think of it like that. Can we win 2 at home and can we win 1 on the road? If you have Giannis back in the lineup, that likelihood definitely rises. If you're walking into game 5, on the other hand, still no Giannis, still no Dame. We don't know what the health is going to be of Chris Middleton and Pat Bev. We know how ankles are, right? You sprain an ankle, it hurts, but you keep your shoe on, you keep moving, and it does not swell up quickly, hopefully. But once you slow down, you take that shoe off and you rest a little bit, it's going to swell up. That pain is going to come. And Malik Beasley mentioned that even after the game, just saying like how he appreciated Chris putting his body on the line for the team, like knowing he's going to be tired and hurting tomorrow, he still came out here and hooped. But what does that mean? At what cost? Right now, I would say that I expect that Chris would play in game 5 based on what we've seen, just him trying to push through with everything. But you never know. You never know. So we're going to need to be keeping a close eye on that injury report. But it is good news to hear that Giannis is running again, no resistance, that Dame isn't ruled out completely for this series. You hope that the injury news that comes out around Pat Bev and Chris Middleton after this game isn't too devastating. You hope that is something that's going to be manageable, that they can play through and not possibly, injure themselves in an extreme manner from playing through whatever it is that they might be going on with right now. Well, Chris, is the ankles, which ankles can be fickle. So listen, y'all, it looks bad. I'm not going to lie to y'all. Being down 3-1 don't feel good. Again, especially after game 3, where you were down big, you fought back, you had a crazy comeback. Chris Middleton goes berserk with 42 points. You go to overtime and that game slips away, really because of offensive rebounding, second chance opportunities. And the Bucks cleaned some of that up tonight. Like offensive rebounding, the Bucks had more offensive rebounds than the Pacers did. Both teams knocked down 46 shots tonight. The Bucks took one more shot than the Pacers. You don't tend to see a shot distribution that even between two teams here sometimes. So to see that the Bucks, were able to be better on offensive glass tonight just goes to show, like, hey, if y'all would have just been able to end some possessions a bit earlier in game 3, it could have been a different story. But you can't dwell on the could have beens, the should have beens. All you can do is look at the mistakes made before and try to work to correct them. So corrections for the Bucks based on what we've seen over the last couple of games, right? Bobby, you got to keep the emotions in check. Too important to this team. How could this game have been different if Bobby would have played? Don't know. We'll never know that, right? So going forward, you got to make sure that you keep it in check, that you just find a way to make sure that you don't make yourself unavailable for your teammates. And I think Bobby's going to take that. Bobby's a good teammate. He loves his teammates. I'm sure that he's sitting here like ruining over the fact that he made that mistake. You don't want to see that again. Bucks are going to have to make sure that they are sharper on their defensive rotations. Like they got to have each other's back. They cannot give up that many good looks to the Pacers. They will shoot them. You can't give an NBA team that much space. Got to be tighter there, right? And then on top of that, too, you got to keep doing things well as well, like offensive rebounding. Keep that low. Make sure on offense you're taking good shots. You got to have good shot discipline, have good spacing. Like you can see the pathway for the Bucks to win this series. It's just they just got to hunker down and do it, and you got to hope they get some positive injury news going into Game 5, because if they are still without Giannis and without Dame, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, and the margin of error is going to be very slim. So, woo, y'all staring up at it, but hey, a game at a time, y'all. One game at a time. And we'll wrap up here on that note. As a reminder, make sure y'all check out Locked On Sports Day on YouTube and on Amazon Fire TV. There will be more Locked On Bucks content for you guys throughout the week, so make sure that you guys stay locked in. I'll get at you later.